General Hospital spoilers on Tuesday, April 29 tease that Lucas, after a long time of being immersed in pain and disappointment, is finally entering a new phase when a surprisingly strong interaction between him and Marco begins to blossom, bringing profound changes to his seemingly calm and closed life. From the first moments, when their eyes accidentally met in a completely unplanned situation, there was a silent vibration, an invisible harmony that was difficult to explain. The naturalness in the way they communicated, the comfort without forcing in the small, everyday stories, all seemed to weave a magical connection, something that Lucas no longer dared to hope for after so many losses. Marco, with his sincerity, inner peace and gentle patience, touched the deepest wounds in Lucas that no one had ever been patient or delicate enough to truly listen and heal. And Lucas, with all the sincerity of a person who has experienced a broken heart, with a heart that has been broken but still yearns for love, has gradually let Marco into his most private world. The place he once locked away from the outside world. It seems that a new love story is no longer just a potential possibility but is actually taking shape, confirmed not through hasty words, but through every warm look, every gentle touch, every unexplained presence of Marco in the moments Lucas needs most. Marco's presence not only rekindles Lucas's belief in love, but also gives him a new kind of spiritual power, the right to expect, the right to love without fear, the right to rebuild a life that he once thought had slipped away from him forever. Not stopping at the personal emotional aspect, the connection between Lucas and Marco also opens new doors for Lucas's life. New social relationships, career opportunities, personal projects that were once buried by fear and self-doubt are all rising from the ashes of the past. Marco is not only a potential lover, but also a catalyst for Lucas to overcome his own limits, to boldly dream and act for himself. Lucas's story is expanding more than ever, not only with pleasant smiles over a cup of coffee or afternoon strolls through the streets of Port Charles, but also with deep conversations, future plans drawn up quietly but firmly, with Marco holding Lucas's hand as if reminding him that he no longer has to face this world alone. Every moment with Marco is changing Lucas, helping him from someone who just exists to someone who truly lives, truly feels and truly believes in the miracles of his life. Port Charles, which has witnessed so many tragic love stories, is now quietly witnessing the rebirth of Lucas, a new journey filled with hope written not by sudden miracles, but by perseverance, courage, and a slow but steady love that grows every day. Those who knew Lucas before, when they see the new light in his eyes, cannot help but be amazed by the gentle yet powerful change that Marco has brought. And Lucas himself, deep in his heart, knows that the dark days are finally over, and he is walking on a new path, where love is no longer something far away, where every heartbeat no longer carries the fear of loss, but is filled with faith in a bright future with the person who accidentally entered his life when he needed it most. A new story has begun, and this time, Lucas will no longer just stand on the sidelines. Porsche is slowly falling into a new troublesome situation when a complex interaction begins to form between her and the unpredictable actions of Curtis and Jordan. The relationship between the three, which has long been tense and ambiguous, now enters a new phase of chaos, when personal decisions and choices are no longer purely private, but begin to cause direct and profound impacts on the entire family structure as well as the social relationships around them. One of the new changes that is quietly taking place is Porsche's realization that she can no longer ignore the increasingly obvious signs of instability in Curtis and Jordan's actions. The ambiguous closeness between the two, the secret conversations, the unexplained secrets, all seem to gradually create an invisible but powerful pressure, pushing Porsche into a state of constant vigilance and suspicion. The change in Porsche's response, from gentle patience to secretly watching and starting to investigate what was going on behind her back, is a clear demonstration of the profound change in her psychology. Porsche is no longer the woman who always accepted sacrifices to keep the peace. Now she is forced to calculate, forced to set clear limits for herself and for those around her. And as she begins to change, the story that seemed to be controllable between her, Curtis and Jordan becomes more chaotic than ever. Curtis, with his confusing choices and ambiguous commitments, is making Porsche feel that he is no longer a partner she can fully trust. Meanwhile, Jordan, despite trying to appear innocent, constantly appears in the most sensitive moments, making Porsche more certain that these relationships have crossed the permissible line. The new way Porsche deals with these problems is sending ripples through not just her relationship with Curtis, but the entire social fabric the three of them inhabit. What started as small adjustments, the probing questions, the cold stares, the heavy silences, are turning into larger shifts, where trust is eroded bit by bit, and doubt overwhelms any attempts at redemption. More and more, Porsche realizes that if she doesn't protect herself, if she doesn't reshape her place in the world, she'll be swept away by a rising tide of betrayal and lies. One of the biggest new pressures Porsche faces is the choice between continuing to pretend nothing happened to maintain the image of a perfect family, or facing the truth and risking everything to save her own dignity. The story between Porsche, Curtis, and Jordan is no longer a simple love triangle. It has become a silent battlefield, where every gesture, every word carries the weight of hidden meaning, of unhealed wounds. And in that context, Porsche is becoming a pivotal figure, someone who can choose to break all the false masks that cover them, or continue to sink deeper into a quagmire of lies disguised as false kindness. These new changes are making the whole story between them more explosive than ever, not only pushing the characters to the limit of their tolerance, but also reshaping their entire social relationships in Port Charles. Porsche is no longer a silent observer. She is becoming the instigator of irreversible change, and Port Charles will soon realize that when a woman like Porsche decides to stop being silent, nothing will ever be the same. Anna, once known for her calm demeanor and razor-sharp control, is now in a rare state of rage, as Emma's increasingly erratic behavior is pushing things further away from the control she once carefully maintained. Emma's rebellious actions, her impulsive decisions, and her disregard for consequences are becoming a formidable force that weighs not only on Anna as a mother, but also threatens Anna's already fragile position, career, and future in Port Charles. One of the most troubling new traits Anna is facing is that Emma no longer adheres to any of the boundaries Anna has tried to establish. Emma's every move, every word, every action is becoming more and more reckless, as if she is deliberately seeking to break every expectation and rule Anna has cultivated. This change is no longer simply a youthful rebellion, but has become a clear expression of deep dissatisfaction, a latent anger that can explode at any moment with unpredictable consequences. The pressure that Anna is under comes not only from Emma's new crazy actions, but also from the scrutiny and whispers of those around her. In a city like Port Charles, where every personal mistake can be magnified into a social stain, Anna's inability to control her daughter is making her position more shaky than ever. Colleagues who once respected her, allies who once trusted her, are now beginning to question Anna's leadership ability, sanity, and moral character. Anna's future, already burdened by the scars of the past, is now truly in doubt. How can she continue to protect what she has fought to build all her life, when her own home, the place that should have been her only refuge, is crumbling under Emma's unchecked rebellion? The choices Anna must make are no longer the tactical, cold moves of her intelligence career, but emotional ones, where the smallest mistake could have irreversible consequences. A new obsession is silently haunting Anna, the fear of losing everything, her honor, her career, her family, and worse, of losing Emma herself, the girl she once considered her greatest hope for the future. Emma's wild change in behavior is no longer a normal sign of rebellious adulthood, but a silent declaration that she is hurtling toward dangerous territory, from which even Anna, for all her skill and fortitude, is uncertain how to pull her daughter back. Anna's story is no longer a simple fight to protect her ideals or reputation, but a life-or-death battle to keep what's left of her family, her love, and herself. And in that fight, Anna will have to face not only external enemies, but also internal ghosts, old pains that have never truly been healed, now coming back to haunt her in the form of her most beloved daughter. Port Charles is about to witness a completely different Anna, fiercer, more dangerous, but also lonelier than ever. And when this anger fully explodes, no one, not even Emma,
can predict how terrible the consequences will be. Drew, a man once known for his calm, steady demeanor and ability to control every situation with reason,
is now approaching the limit of his endurance, as the pressure from Nina continues to increase day by day, hour by hour. What used to be hidden conflicts, small disagreements between the two, have now developed into a fierce hidden war, a confrontation in which neither side retains any restraint. And in that context, Drew, after a long time of patience and observation, is preparing to take a bold action that can change the entire future of both him and Nina. Nina, with her sharp survival instinct and never-ending ambition, has continuously put pressure on Drew, using hidden relationships, sensitive information and sophisticated tricks to keep him under control. But what Nina doesn't realize, or chooses to ignore, is that the more she pushes Drew to back down, the closer she pushes him to the edge of his explosiveness. Drew is no longer the compromising man he once was. Past wounds, betrayals, and abuses have shaped him into someone who knows when to hold back and when to strike without mercy. One of the biggest shocks that's brewing is the change in how Drew sees the world around him. No longer believing in the old codes of honor, no longer trusting in empty promises, Drew now understands that if he wants to survive and protect what's important to him, his reputation, his career, and the people he loves, he must be willing to do things he once swore he would never do. This adjustment is taking things further and further than either of them could have planned. Every time Nina tries to suffocate Drew with a new scheme, every time she throws out another threat, Drew quietly prepares a more vicious counterattack. The tension between them is escalating by the day, building like a volcano ready to erupt, where a spark is enough to blow away the last barriers. The most dangerous thing is that both Drew and Nina have crossed the line of compromise. Neither of them is looking for peace anymore. They are looking only to destroy the other before they are destroyed themselves. Drew, in silence, has been planning, step by step, to expose Nina's darkest secrets. From her shady dealings to the backroom connections she used to manipulate power in Port Charles. Drew's bold move promises to draw a host of other characters into the fray, from Carly, who never misses an opportunity to attack Nina, to Michael, who has his own motives for taking down anyone who threatens his family, and even Jason, who is watching the proceedings with a cold eye. A new, silent but powerful alliance is forming around Drew, ready to strike a fatal blow against Nina when the time is right. Port Charles, long accustomed to sex scandals and hidden power games, is now preparing to witness a more brutal public war than ever before. When Drew acts, not only Nina but also the entire web of power and secrets surrounding her will be exposed to the light. Those who were complicit and benefited from Nina's hidden games will be forced to choose sides, and in the process, the strongest relationships will collapse. This change will not only reshape the fates of Drew and Nina, but will shake the entire social and power structure of Port Charles. New alliances will be forged, the weak will be crushed, and the survivors will pay a heavy price for their survival. Drew, with a cold resolve and patience honed from years of being pushed aside, is about to prove that he is no longer a pawn in someone else's game. He will be the one to tip the board. And when the battle is over, only a different Drew will be left, stronger, more dangerous, and less willing to forgive anyone who has ever slighted him. Port Charles will no longer recognize the man Drew is becoming. And Nina will be the first to pay the price for that transformation. Gio, who has always believed he knows his origins and his place in the turbulent world of Port Charles, is about to get the shock of his life when Tracy, with her usual cool and sharp demeanor, reveals a shocking secret about his true identity. This truth is not simply a forgotten piece of the puzzle from his past, but a bombshell that explodes every old perception Gio has relied on to define who he is and where he belongs. And when the secret is exposed, it sets off an irreversible chain of events that thrusts Gio into the center of a political, emotional, and power storm that rages beneath the seemingly calm surface of Port Charles. Tracy, with the sharpness of someone who has seen too many power plays, does not deliver the secret softly or with kindness. She drops it like a knife, cold and precise, leaving Gio no room to defend herself. In that moment, everything he knew, of family, of love, of the people he trusted, came crashing down, leaving a vast void that Gio was forced to face, alone. Without a map, This adjustment was not simply a change in how Gio saw himself, but also a forced change in how Port Charles would treat him. With his secret revealed, Gio was no longer just a regular guy, but suddenly the potential heir to rights, responsibilities, and grudges that had been simmering for years. New rights, be they fortune, social status, or hidden power connections, were thrust upon Gio, but with them came heavy expectations and the scrutiny of allies and enemies alike. One of the greatest pressures that is mounting on Gio is the need to quickly adapt to a new reality, one in which naivety or hesitation can be very costly. He can no longer afford to make mistakes. Every decision, every step from now on will be weighed against the survival, honor, and future of not only himself, but also those involved. Gio, who once lived within the confines of safety, is now forced to become part of a political calculation more complex than anything he could have imagined. The crazy change that is taking place is this: Gio, who once stood outside the power struggles, is now the center of attention. Those who once looked down on him, those who once manipulated him, will now see him differently, a potential rival, an unpredictable variable, a silent danger. And Gio himself will have to decide. Will he let himself be drawn into the old schemes of others, or will he rewrite his own story? With all that he has just lost and is about to regain? This new crazy event will not only shake Joe's personal world, but also promise to profoundly change the current power structure in Port Charles. Powerful families will have to adjust their strategies. Long-buried secrets will begin to leak out. Relationships that seemed unbreakable will be tested to their limits. And in the center of this storm, Gio, who never really wanted or prepared for all of this, will have to choose, fall or rise as a new force. Port Charles, once again, will witness a completely different game. A new hand is dealt, where the old names will have to make way for those who dare to step in and claim their rightful place. And Gio, with all his newfound cynicism, anger, and ambition, will no longer be the boy on the sidelines. He will be the protagonist. Ready. Uncompromising. And this time, Port Charles will have to learn to live in a world where Gio sets the rules.